What is sacred geometry? In this expanded video, discover how the universe speaks in shapes, numbers, and harmony. From ancient civilizations to modern science, sacred geometry is the blueprint of creation. Learn about its origins in Pythagorean numerology, Kabbalah, Egyptian temples, and divine mathematics. Discover how to recognize these patterns in everyday life and use them for healing, clarity, and spiritual awakening. Part 1: What is sacred geometry? Sacred geometry is the study of the shapes, patterns, and mathematical formulas that appear throughout nature, the cosmos, and spiritual symbolism. These aren't random designs. They are recurring patterns that connect microcosm to macrocosm. The spiral of a nautilus shell mirrors the spin of a hurricane. The structure of your DNA echoes the pattern of a galaxy. Sacred geometry reveals that behind everything physical, there is invisible order, one that carries intention, beauty, and sacred resonance. The most well-known patterns include the flower of life, Metatron's cube, the Fibonacci sequence, and the golden ratio, phi. These geometries aren't confined to temples or textbooks, they are in leaves, rivers, bones, and stars. They're not just pretty patterns, they're codes embedded in life itself. Part 2: Where did sacred geometry come from? Sacred geometry is ancient and universal. Egyptian architects embedded it into pyramids. The Greeks studied it religiously. Pythagoras, a philosopher and mathematician, taught that numbers were alive and carried spiritual meaning. His understanding of triangles, ratios, and harmonics wasn't just academic, it was mystical. Plato, in his dialogues, described geometry as the divine language of the cosmos. He saw the 5 Platonic solids, shapes like the cube and dodecahedron, as the elemental building blocks of the universe. Meanwhile, in Jewish mysticism, sacred geometry appears in the Tree of Life from Kabbalah, mapping the soul's journey toward divine connection. Even Babylonians and Sumerians used complex geometrical systems tied to astronomy and astrology. Across cultures, these patterns were seen not just as science, but as spiritual revelation. Part 3: Sacred numbers and divine frequency. Certain numbers, like 3, 7, 12, and 40, have shown up repeatedly in spiritual texts, including the Bible. These are not arbitrary figures. 3 often represents unity and wholeness, seen in the Christian Trinity or mind, body, spirit. 7 signifies perfection, spiritual awakening, and divine orchestration. 12 speaks to divine government, tribes, apostles, months. And 40. Transformation. Trials. Initiation. These numbers often appear in sacred geometry ratios and measurements, reinforcing their divine resonance. Sacred geometry connects numbers and shape into a shared language. The spiral you find in nature. That's the Fibonacci sequence in motion. The golden ratio. It's the proportion of beauty found in seashells, sunflowers, and the human face. Part 4: How do you know you're experiencing sacred geometry? You may feel a pull toward certain symbols, mandalas, spirals, hexagons. You might notice patterns repeating in nature or dreams. Or you walk into a building and feel instantly calm, not realizing it's built on harmonic proportions. That's not coincidence. That's your body and soul responding to alignment. Sacred geometry bypasses the intellect and speaks directly to the subconscious. It evokes awe, grounding, and clarity. The attraction you feel to flowers, sacred symbols, or even a snowflake is the soul remembering the design it came from. Part 5: What to do when sacred geometry shows up. When you begin to notice sacred geometry in your surroundings or spiritual practice, treat it like a message. These shapes may come to you during meditation, dreams, or even casual observation, offering guidance, healing, or affirmation. Here's what you can do: meditate with geometric patterns. Use the flower of life or Metatron's cube as a focal point. Draw or color mandalas. It activates the intuitive mind and calms the nervous system. Place symbols in your space. These visuals can raise the frequency of a room. Work with crystals or architecture that reflect geometric forms, like pyramids, spheres, or grids. Keep a journal and write about your experience, especially how it relates to your current thoughts, feeling, or emotions. Part 6. Sacred Geometry as a Healing Tool. Many believe sacred geometry has a vibrational frequency that restores harmony. Sound healers often use solfeggio frequencies or binaural beats based on geometric intervals. Architects use geometry to align buildings with natural energy flow. Think cathedrals, temples, and even the design of sacred cities like Machu Picchu. Even quantum physicists are catching up to what mystics have always known: energy follows form. When you place sacred geometry in your environment, you influence your own electromagnetic field, shifting emotion, thought, and vibration. Part 7. The bridge between science and spirit. Sacred geometry stands at the crossroads of science, mathematics, art, and religion. It's where logic and mystery converge. Nikola Tesla once said, "If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." That is sacred geometry. It's the invisible architecture that shapes the visible world. It's the divine signature hidden in the folds of creation. Part 8. Sacred Geometry and the Nature of Consciousness. Sacred geometry is not just about shapes and patterns, it's about consciousness itself. The idea that the universe is constructed with a blueprint of geometric forms suggests something deeper than simply physical architecture. It hints at the nature of our own consciousness. When we align with sacred geometry, we align with the natural order of the universe. This alignment allows us to access a higher state of awareness, where we begin to see beyond the physical world and into the spiritual and energetic realms that underlie it. One of the most profound aspects of sacred geometry is its connection to the concept of fractals. A fractal is a never-ending pattern, self-replicating at every scale. It's the principle that explains why a tiny fern leaf mirrors the shape of a vast galaxy. The same fractal patterns that shape mountains, clouds, and trees also shape the way our minds process information and form memories. The key idea here is that the microcosm reflects the macrocosm. In other words, the same geometric patterns that structure the universe also structure our consciousness. By studying and engaging with these patterns, we can tap into the vast potential of our own minds, expanding our awareness and access to higher states of being. But it doesn't end there. Sacred geometry has profound implications for how we understand time, space, and our place within the cosmos. Think about how the Fibonacci spiral, for example, seems to govern everything from the way galaxies rotate to the arrangement of petals on a flower. It suggests that time and space are not random but are instead governed by a rhythm, an underlying pulse that resonates through all of existence. This pulse is like a cosmic heartbeat, and by tuning into it, we can synchronize our own rhythms with the flow of the universe. Part 9. The Unified Field, where science meets spirituality. Modern physics is starting to catch up with ancient wisdom. The idea of a unified field, a singular energy that connects everything in the universe, is gaining traction among scientists today. Physicists like David Bohm have proposed that all of reality is interconnected, and that the particles of matter are simply projections of a deeper, more fundamental layer of existence. This invisible field, they believe, is the field of potential from which all matter emerges, and it is governed by mathematical laws. Sacred geometry can be seen as the map to this field. It's the language of the underlying order that governs reality. The symmetries, ratios, and proportions found in sacred geometry are expressions of the universal laws of nature. From the patterns in the atom to the spiral arms of galaxies, sacred geometry reveals how everything is interconnected. This is where science and spirituality meet, both disciplines acknowledging that there is a hidden order to the universe, a sacred intelligence at play. Part 10: The Power of Intention, Co-creation with the universe. As you begin to recognize sacred geometry in your surroundings, you may feel a deeper connection to the world around you. The patterns that once seemed like abstract designs now take on a new meaning. They are messages, reminders, and tools to help you align with the divine flow of life. This is where the power of intention comes into play. When you align with sacred geometry, you can intentionally co-create with the universe. You can shape your reality by using these patterns as focal points. Imagine setting an intention for healing or growth and using sacred geometry to amplify that intention. You might meditate on the flower of life to invoke wholeness, or visualize Metatron's cube to clear energy blockages. The more you connect with these sacred forms, the more you begin to tap into the universal flow of energy, shifting your frequency to match the divine blueprint. Your life becomes a conscious act of creation, as you learn to manifest through the same divine architecture that governs the cosmos. Closing thought: sacred geometry isn't just something to study, it's something to feel, to remember, to live. These patterns live within you. You are not separate from the code, you are the code. Every heartbeat, every breath, every thought is part of the design. When you honor the patterns, you align with the divine. And when you align, the universe begins to respond in kind. Thank you for tuning in. If this message resonated with you, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with someone in need. Your support helps this message reach more people who can benefit from it.